was 2 years old when I found out that the perfect pillow exists. It's none other than the Emma Sleep foam pillow. Emma gifted me their award-winning ergonomic pillow that's customizable to your preferences. It's easy to clean with a removable and washable cover, and it's perfect for all sleeping positions.
estudyante na kulang sa vitamin D, kulang sa tibay. Pero siya, kahit sagad sa hamon, 많은 네가 서투르지만 해주는 너의 그 한마디에 Give me the right to have your body to somebody 특별한 나로 그래 You make me feel special 세상이 아무리 날 주저앉혀도 뜨거운 말들이 날 질러도 네가 있어 다시 웃어 That's what you do How can I feel special 어떤 존재가 나가도 사라져도 우릴 사랑했던 가도 내 부르는 네 목소리에 I feel love, I feel so special 자꾸 듣고 싶어서 아주 이게 식어서 너를 내리는 듯이 내가 내리는 시간아 주저앉아 있을 때는 내 앞에 나는 너의 따뜻한 미소와 손길에 Everything's alright to have your body Let's get somebody 특별한 나로 변해 You make me feel special 세상이 아무리 날 주저앉혀도 아프고 아픈 말들이 날 질러도 네가 있어 난 다시 웃어 That's what you do How can I feel special 아무것도 아닌 존재가 나가도 사라지도 우리 사랑은 떠나도 날 부르는 네 목소리에 I feel love I feel so special You make everything alright 그런 반짝이 Accessory on me die 네가 맘 날 shining bright That's what you do 아무리 아파도 다시 난 I want to you Because you make me feel special 세상이 아무리 날 주저앉혀도 아프고 아픈 말들이 날 질러도 네가 있어 난 다시 웃어 That's what you do How can I feel special 아무것도 아닌 존재가 다가도 사라져도 우릴 사랑했던 가도 날 부르는 네 목소리에 I feel love I feel so special Let's take one, let's smile.
Sorry, Wayne Dennison. We haven't met. But let me ask you, let's start with what you finished with.
I'm sorry, one more time?
Let's start with what you finished with. You understand that the court was twice asked by Ms. Heard's counsel to order a medical exam of Mr. Dow, and those motions were denied.
I think your team told the court you didn't want to have them, and the court ruled on it. I don't think the court proactively did it. You kind of had a motion to them, right?
No, when Ms. Heard's lawyers moved for them and asked for them and did not get them. Isn't that right, sir?
If you're saying that for happened, my understanding of was that you all did not want to undergo one. They petitioned for it. The court said no. Yes, that's what my understanding of was.
The court said no to order Mr. Depp to do the medical exam.
Right, that's what I said. Not required, right?
And there was one that was ordered, in fact, right?
It was.
All right, so the last thing we talked about was the Goldwater rule.
Yes, sir.
Been around for almost 50 years, right?
Yeah, 59, that sounds about right.
Yeah. And it's been around as a result of a presidential election that you referenced.
Yes.
And who has that rule? What organization maintains that rule?
The American Psychiatric Association.
An association you're a member.
Association I'm a member of, yes.
Aren't you a fellow or something?
Yes, I am.
Okay, so, and this is an ethical rule, right?
It is an ethical rule, and yes, it's ethical, they say rules, it's an ethical guideline, yes, they're guidelines.
And you know that over time, the American Psychiatric Association has amended the rule, so it's not just about diagnoses, but it's also about professional opinions.
Can you be more specific, say about professional opinion in regard to what?
Well, let me read this and see if you're familiar with it. It is unethical for a psychiatrist to offer a professional opinion about an individual based on publicly available information without conducting an examination. That's the rule, right?
If you're reading it directly, I will believe you.
Okay. However, a diagnosis is not required for an opinion to be professional. So my question is, it's not just diagnosis that this Goldwater rule applies to, it's professional opinions.
So again, I'll reiterate that would come down to essentially nullifying witness testimony, expert witness testimony, without direct evaluation. And as we know, it didn't happen, but regardless of that, the whole expert witness testimony thing would be basically rendered null and void.
The rule, in fact, contemplates that issue, doesn't it, sir?
Again, I'm just telling you the answer to the question. When you're reading me those statements, I'm telling you the response by the other side, who was publishes also, is that if that was the case, there could be no expert witness testimony in the court.
Psychiatrists are ethically prohibited from evaluating individuals without permission or other authorization, such as a court order. That's the rule, right?
Again, if you're reading that, then I have to believe you're not misrepresenting. And I would come back to, again, then this whole thing on expert, we might as well get rid of all the expert witnesses we've had throughout all time for court proceedings. Because what you're saying is unless a court orders it, and that's what you just said, or they said, then therefore expert witnesses cannot do an evaluation based on an observation of the medical records. The insurance companies cannot do evaluations solely based on the medical record where their doctors rendering professional opinions. So at the end of the day, you are essentially saying that unless someone has directly evaluated it, This whole medical system we have, this whole legal system we have is null and void.
I'm not saying.
No, yes, you are, sir. I think you are.
Give me a second. I'll give you more than a second. What I'm saying and what I am reading to you is a rule by your organization that takes into account that there could be court orders that would permit the exact kind of evaluation that you say I'm eliminating.
And I think we're going in circles because I think I just said that means expert witness testimony would not be allowed, and the branch of forensic psychiatry would be especially hindered. We know the branch of forensic psychiatry does not prohibit that. So I am a member of the APA. That doesn't necessarily mean every single thing they put in there, everybody has to uncategorically agree with, because clearly that's not the case.
Did you agree in your deposition that the professional opinions you rendered were inconsistent with?
Yeah. My first is inconsistent. If we're saying that if the Golden Rule says, and I very much said that in the deposition, that the Golden Rule was made for presidents and public figures such as that. But regardless of that, because that's what it was made for. It's not made for Hollywood, but I'll even take them since that's a public figure. What I'm saying to you is that the Golden Rule is saying we cannot do any expert witness testimony in our field. That is exactly what the Golden Rule is saying, based on exactly what you read. And I'm just telling you what you are saying that rule encompasses.
What I'm asking you, sir, is did you comply with the ethical requirements of the APA when rendering the professional opinions that you've rendered today?
It is a requirement of the APA. It's not the requirement of the APA. Secondarily,
So the answer is no?
Secondarily. Again, in order to not, we waste our whole morning because of an expert witness before me. There's an expert witness who's everyone brought in. So all I'm saying to you, that means the whole field of medical legal law is corrupt and unethical for engaging in an act that the APA clearly says we should not do. So if you're saying that, then the answer is yes, I'm agreeing with that statement.
You're agreeing that the APA would deem your testimony and your professional opinions rendered unethical.
Again, I'm saying, you are saying that I'm an expert witness. I'm saying as an expert witness, and solely as an expert witness, that guideline is permitting that from occurring. I would say then that the whole field of expert witness testimony, again, would be disavowed by what you were reporting in the Golden Rule, and we know that's not the case, because if it was, we would not be allowed to do it.
And you said the rule was for presidents, right?
That was initially for presidents.
But, and the name of the rule came from that. But the rule says it is unethical for a psychiatrist to offer a professional opinion about an individual. That's right, sir. It's not just presidents, it's not public figures, it's individuals.
Funny, it was named after, according to your logic, if you don't put something in the title, it's not true. That's what you told me this morning, I believe, at my intimate partner violence. So what I would say to you then, sir, is that if you say this about an individual, again, any court would have to render an expert witness testimony invalid. Any doctor that reviews charts would have to render it invalid. I can go on the list of docs that do not see their patients directly, and that's a violation. So basically, you are saying that unless you do a direct clinical evaluation, then all of the field of forensic psychiatry and all of managed care is doing an unethical violation because we are not seeing the presence. We deny patients medications all the time without seeing them. We deny patients treatments, unfortunately, without seeing them. And I'm on the receiving end of that. So the answer to your question, again, unless you are saying to me that all of this is unethical, which is what you are saying. This is how I'm interpreting what you are saying to me. That unless you do the evaluation directly yourself, therefore, it cannot be considered ethical. And I'm telling you how that's applicable to not just expert law, but also managed care, and applicable to multiple branch events. Hospital, duration of hospitalization, staying in and out. So tell me where you want me to end this.
Well, why don't we talk about what you just testified to? Because I didn't ask you anything about that. I asked you whether, under this rubric, under this principle of medical ethics, have you acted unethically? Yes or no?
No. As an expert witness, I have not acted unethically. And if you want the jury to believe that expert witnesses are unethical, then I guess that's for them to decide.
Yes
And
or
that's
no,
for them
sir.
to decide.
No, let's go to the next question.
Okay.
Right? Psychiatric diagnosis occurs in the context of an evaluation based on thorough history-taking examination and where applicable correlated or collateral information. Do you agree with that?
I believe I said that earlier. Yes.
And it's a departure from the methods of the profession to render an opinion without an examination and without conducting an evaluation in accordance with the standards of psychiatric practice, correct?
Well, again, by the way, for the record, intimate partner violence is not a psychiatric diagnosis. I'll start with that. Substance usage by themselves is not a psychiatric diagnosis. If you want to cut to the chase, psychiatry is not a diagnosis of that. Narcissistic personality traits is not a diagnosis. Ergo, I am basically commenting on the things that were brought to me, which are not diagnoses. But in evaluation, if I was going to treat a patient or anyone here, those are the steps I would take.
We, I think, started with the notion that this rule applies broader than diagnoses. It applies to professional opinions.
I believe
And you've rendered professional opinions relative to narcissistic personality traits, haven't you, sir? Relative to Mr. Depp.
Again, I believe you just commented on what it takes to do a psychiatric evaluation to establish a diagnosis. I'm almost certain that's what you said. And maybe I'm wrong. Maybe you didn't say that, but I'm sure you did. And therefore, what I'm saying is neither IPV nor substance usage nor narcissistic personality traits are psychiatric diagnoses. And then, under the rubric of expert witness testimony, you are saying I acted unethically under the rubric of expert witness testimony. So if you still would like to proceed that expert witnesses are unethical, based on that, I am not going to sit here and disagree with you and waste everyone's time. I think it's fairly obvious. But thank you. Go ahead. These were your words. I'm just saying back how they're interpreted.
Okay. Let's start with the easy question then. Maybe we can.
That was pretty easy. Go ahead.
Yeah, I think you're going to have to just answer the questions.
Okay. Sorry about that.
Yeah.
You need to just answer the questions.
You are not rendering any diagnosis whatsoever of Mr. Depp today or ever.
No, I probably would say to you that certainly I would not say narcissistic personality or say traits. Certainly, from what I have read, intimate partner violence is not a diagnosis. So the answer is no for that. Narcissistic personality traits is not a diagnosis. The answer is no. But if you want to tell me that substance use disorder is a psychiatric diagnosis, the answer is yes.
But that wasn't an issue, was it? Whether Mr. Depp used substances. I mean, you said you've gone through the record. That wasn't really an issue with this trial. It's said it from day one.
But you say he's already admitted to the diagnosis.
He's already admitted to the use of the substances.
Well, again, there's a difference between admitting to substance use and substance use disorder.
Let's go back to what you just said about narcissistic personality traits.
Yes.
Narcissistic personality disorder is a DSM-5 diagnosis, correct?
Correct.
Diagnostic personality, and you haven't testified that Mr. Depp has narcissistic personality disorder, have you?
I would certainly, if I didn't, I'm certainly thinking that, but at least I'm going to say he has traits, which are characteristics of provisional diagnosis of. It's a provisional diagnosis of probably narcissistic personality disorder. But yeah, I mean, I do believe that.
Well, when you say provisional diagnosis, you know the DSM-5 requires, in order to find that diagnosis, 5 of the 9 factors. And you haven't done that analysis. You've never made that diagnosis. You've just identified certain factors
that are criteria for the diagnosis.
Right. But you need 5 of 9 to get to the diagnosis. You've already told us that you didn't make a diagnosis. You're just identifying traits, correct?
I'm identifying traits that are consistent with the diagnosis, yes.
Right. And did you testify in deposition that the existence of traits, as opposed to the disorder, doesn't have a correlation with IPD?
If I said traits do not have a correlation with the, if that's what I said, I don't remember saying that, but that wouldn't be a correct statement. Narcissism has a correlation with the diagnosis. Yes, that part's true.
Or how far are we going to back this up? Because there's a diagnosis of narcissistic personality disorder, right?
Yes, sir.
And that one is tied, has some correlation with IPD, right?
Narcissism has correlation with IPD. Again, sir, you're not allowed to answer. You're splitting hairs. You're splitting hairs between the traits that are consistent with, which all I'm commenting on is behaviors and traits that are consistent with the diagnosis. And Mr. Depp, narcissism absolutely has risk factors associated with IPD.
Let's go back again, and maybe we can focus on the question I asked you, and we can get an answer that's addressed to that question. Narcissistic personality disorder is a risk factor for IPD, yes or no?
Yes.
And you previously testified that there is no literature of which you are currently aware that the mere presence of narcissistic traits is a risk factor for IPD.
Can I answer the question?
Yes.
That's incorrect. Cluster B traits, which narcissistic personality disorder is part of, is a huge risk factor for intimate partner violence, which include, cluster B traits include narcissistic personality disorder, antisocial personality disorder, amongst others. So the answer to the question is, every resource on intimate partner violence will support that cluster B traits, where narcissistic personality falls under, is a risk factor for intimate partner violence.
Any single trait is a risk factor for IPD.
Again, I will repeat, cluster B traits. I didn't say any trait. I said cluster. No,
Let me be more precise.
Okay.
Any narcissistic trait in and of itself is a risk factor for IPD.
But you are mischaracterizing what I said. What I said, I'm pretty sure I said cluster. If you look at all the intimate partner violence literature, I would behoove you to do so, you will see that cluster B traits, specific to the same narcissistic per se, cluster B traits, where narcissistic personality disorder is part of, are risk factors for intimate partner violence, part and parcel, uniformly true. And I'm not sure, the thing I don't understand is, I'm not sure why we're arguing psychiatry, because I'm telling you what it is.
Dr. Steve, you just need to answer the question.
Okay.
So you want to talk about cluster B, so let's do that for a minute. Borderline personality disorder is a risk factor for IPD.
As part of cluster B traits, yes.
Histrionic personality disorder is a risk factor for IPD.
Less so.
But it
Less so. Less so. I mean, it's a risk factor, but less so, yes. Less so. Significantly less so.
all right. So which traits under narcissistic, before I move on, there's only been one diagnosis in court of personality disorders, correct?
I'm not sure who you're referring to. Are you referring to Mr. Depp, Ms. Herku? I'm not sure what you were talking about.
Do you understand that there was a medical examination done of Ms. Heard?
Yes, I do.
Do you understand that the testimony was ultimately that suffers from 2 personality disorders.
Okay, so I'm just being specific. I just wanted to know if you told about Ms. Heard or Mr. Depp. So that's all I was asking.
Yes or no to my question?
Which was there's only one diagnosis of Ms. Heard was diagnosed with.
Yeah. And both of the diagnoses are cluster B, and both of them are risk factors for IPV.
Both those cluster B things are. I'm not allowed to comment on the testing, so therefore, all I can say is that cluster B traits, and I'll tell you what they are. And by the way, I testified this before, which was that one, I don't expect perfection from my victims. Two, absolutely there are cluster B traits Ms. Heard had. Absolutely, Ms. Heard had.
Given that you've testified to it before, let's move on to a new question.
Okay.
All right. You indicated in your opinion today that you thought, well, wait a minute. Are you a member of the American Medical Association?
No.
Okay, so you don't know what the ethical rule of the American Medical Association is relative to doing clinical diagnoses about individuals you never taught.
So you're saying you're going to do expert witness evaluations under that rule, right?
I'm just asking you, do you know the AMA's rule?
You say AMA's ruling under the rubric of not to evaluate something you did not see. And I'm questioning, I'm asking, so you are talking about expert witness testing?
No, I'm talking about, do you know the rule?
I'm not a member of the AMA, so I don't.
Okay, great. Okay, move on. You don't know the rule.
But,
all right. You rendered an opinion about Mr. Depp's purported cognitive impairment.
yes,
What do you use as a baseline?
a baseline for processing speed?
Yeah, for analyzing Mr. Depp before you watched his deposition.
What is a baseline for that? I mean, I guess my baseline would probably be how I've seen him interact in public. I haven't seen him interact with others. I've seen him interact in media. I've seen him interact and his process speed is certainly not slow. I've seen him do commercials. His process speed was not slow.
In deposition, didn't you say that what you did was compare Mr. Depp's performance in lots of pirate movies against his deposition testimony?
What I said was I've seen Mr. Depp do apology ads. He did an apology ad with Bad Dog, no delay in process speed. I've seen him interact with the media regarding to that. I saw no delay in processing speed.
All I'm saying, let me ask you about pirates, though. You compared pirates to the depositions given in his case.
Then I apologize for what I said. Then I misspoke.
You misspoke? You didn't make the comparison?
Right now, just a second ago? Just a second ago, I may have said that I misspoke. I apologize, I misspoke.
Okay. Because you know you can't compare pirates to sworn testimony, right?
Testimony.
Okay.
But as a sorry, you can't judge someone's processing speed at any time. Like I'm judging yours right now, you're judging mine. We all judge processing speed as a baseline because what we know about each other. I would say your process speed right now is not slow. So I mean, we're judging processing speed. I'm saying.
Yeah. But any of Mr. Depp's other portrayals in movies, did that affect your analysis of processing speed?
Only I've seen him interact on interviews, and that was it. But when he wasn't in interviews,
But Willy Wonka doesn't matter to you? You see him in that movie, Charlie and the Chocolate Factory? Did you look at that one when you were comparing his processing speed?
Have to answer questions, Mr.
No, you'd be happy to know I didn't see Willy Wonka and I didn't see 21 Jump Street when it happened or whatever it was about. No, I did not.
Alright. You made a very kind admission, I think, early on in your deposition, that you're not claiming to be a better actor than Mr. Depp. That's correct, isn't it?
100%.
But with respect to acting, you know that actors actually rehearse for their parts and work on the language, diction, timing of their dialogue as part of that rehearsal?
If you say that's, I'm not an actor, so I don't know what goes on. I can't tell you. I have no idea what goes on in acting.
Okay, but you don't know enough about acting to know whether actors rehearse?
Sir, I am not an expert in acting. I have no idea what an actor does.
Okay. During your deposition, what were the circumstances under which you decided to call Mr. Depp an idiot?
I'm just hoping I call Mr. Depp an idiot.
Yeah, you called Mr. Depp an idiot in your deposition.
Well, I think, so I think it was in the context. I think it was in the, probably should read the context of it, but I think the context was, and I'm trying to think back, okay? And what I thought it was related to was if you're coming to some deposition, okay, and again, I'm thinking back, so you have it in front of you. I don't. So I'm thinking back where he's coming in from Europe for a deposition, video deposition that he gave, and he took it overnight the night before. And what I think I said was that if you're going to do a major thing or a trial that you're involved in, I think you'd be an idiot to come in the night before.
Sure.
So I didn't call Mr. Depp an idiot. I certainly called that planning an idiot. I didn't call him an idiot.
So the words, so I mean he's an idiot, are mistranscribed?
No, I'm sure, again, if I said it in that context, just read one line, one snippet, I'm sure it was in the context I just said. But again, you have it in front of you, I don't.
Yeah. Is idiot a professional opinion?
I wasn't writing professional.
Yeah. Is it a psychiatric opinion?
That follows the Goldwater rule.
How does it follow that?
Well, you just said that I'm not writing a professional opinion. I just said idiot. That's not.
So idiot is not a professional opinion.
Mm-hmm.
Is it your practice to describe people as idiots?
In my practice, I don't describe people, my clinical cases and patients as idiots or victims as idiots. No, sir.
But you said in your deposition in this case, they described the plaintiff as an idiot, correct?
You gave me 9 hours of deposition, and if I said the word idiot, it was an idiot in planning. It wasn't making him an idiot. I don't know Mr. Depp's IQ. I don't know his overall function. So therefore, if I said it, it was an idiot in planning, which is what I meant to come across as.
So you did say you don't know his overall functioning, but you made some testimony today as to some evaluations you made relative to his functioning. You would agree with me that it's probably a good idea to think about the questions that are asked you in a court proceeding before answering.
Am I allowed to answer that question?
Yes.
Okay. So what I meant by function, I said by function, I believe that his agent reported how late he was showing up to every movie while the cast is waiting for him. I believe that would be an impairment. If I showed up late for that, I would not be here right now, would not have a job. Okay? I believe that the thing was in terms of walking out of treatment for substance rehab that his doctor is prescribing for him. So if you're asking me if that's an impairment of functioning, I would say I'm very much substantiated in that.
I'm trying to understand how you got to this notion of cognitive decline. And I thought it was based at least in part on the manner in which he testified.
I'm sorry, what?
On the manner in which he testified.
On the manner, I'm not being difficult, I can't hear, I'm sorry, what?
I was asking you about the cognitive decline
Yes.
testimony that you made.
Yes.
And it was my understanding that at least a portion of that testimony that you rendered was that you derived some evidence of cognitive decline from the way Mr. Depp testified.
Yes.
Okay.
That's what I said, yes.
Right. And so all I'm asking you is, don't you think it's a good idea when you're in the middle of a court proceeding to answer questions carefully?
Again, professionally, we diagnose patients with a neurocog disorder by gross evaluation all the time with cognitive. On the thought that, again, age normal controls, I'm just saying, age normative controls does not put a 58-year-old gentleman at that processing. That's all I'm saying. That's all I said.
And you derive this without ever once talking to the man.
Me directly talking to you. Because we know how I drive. So you're talking about me directly talking to him?
Yeah, you never talked.
No, I've never talked to him.
Right. And this exam you gave, well, you did talk about this, Dr. Blaustein, right?
Yes, sir.
And you understand that the entirety of Dr. Blaustein's mount records are 12 pages of handwritten notes.
The important part was what I said. For me, there's an example of cognition, which I'm trying to prove, which is what you asked me. The important part was what I said. And that was irrefutable.
The important part is that he gave the mini mental status exam?
Yes, sir.
All right. Let's talk about the mini mental status exam. Scored on a 30-point scale, right?
Yes.
All right. And it's an exam that basically is most often used for what, Alzheimer's, dementia, those kind of testing.
It's an exam that tests cognition in all psychiatric illnesses, not just Alzheimer's. It was made for dementia and Alzheimer's, but it's the standard, has been the standard for testing cognition in all psychiatric illnesses, substance use disorders included.
Okay. Now, there's an element of that exam that requires drawing, correct?
Yes.
So, you don't know what drawing Mr. Depp did, or whether the drawing should have been fully scored.
I wasn't questioning his visual and spatial perception skills, which is what that does.
And you don't know what score Mr. Depp received on the exam.
I was very specific. I know 3 words, not remembering, and 5 minutes. That's all I said.
3 words, not remembering, 5 minutes. You remembered one of them, right?
From what I understand, you remember any of them.
All right. Memory on the exam. Out of the 30 points, what's it worth? 3. 3, right? Memory's 3 out of the 30.
Yeah, memory's 3. And again, the memory section, in and of itself, tests memory. That's the only question that tests memory. The section that actually tests memory.
So the memory section tests memory. It's the only section you testified about. And for all you know, that with respect to the exam that you're relying on, Mr. Depp scored 27 out of 30.
And that would be telling, though, cognitive, you scored 27 and 30, and you missed 3 points on memory. That would be very telling.
You don't know if Mr. Depp had been up all night the night before.
Again, you wouldn't expect to not recall any words in 3 minutes unless there's a cognitive issue.
You don't know if Mr. Depp was high.
And again, now that could affect memory, but I'm not refuting that. I'm not refuting that at all. He could have been high, he could have been drunk, he could have been using cocaine, and that would absolutely affect his memory. That's what I said. Yes, you're right.
So ultimately, you have no idea what state Mr. Depp was in at the time he took the exam that you're relying on.
Short of what you just said about drugs and alcohol,